Fired to lose weight.
Yeah. I still do. Even though he said if you get under 300, he's out of here. He never said it.
Hi everyone, this is Jennifer from 90 Day Insider. And I'm excited to be back with another incredible deep dive into a story that has stunned fans, rattled the network, and left an entire reality TV community questioning everything they thought. They knew about two of TLC's most polarizing stars, because while drama, controversy, and emotional meltdowns have always been part of the package with the 1000 Delby sisters, nothing could have prepared viewers for the explosive scandal that erupted in early 2025 when Amy Slaton, one half of the duo that has both inspired and infuriated audiences for years, found herself at the center of a drug-related arrest that not only called her reputation as a mother into question, but also placed her relationship with the public, her children, her sister Tammy, and even her own freedom under a microscope, creating a perfect storm of speculation, outrage, and whispered theories about what might really be going on behind the cameras. Because, as loyal fans know, Amy's journey in the public eye has been a messy cocktail of triumphs and heartbreaks. From her early YouTube days, where she and Tammy recorded raw, unpolished videos that attracted millions of views from people who saw in them something both relatable and painfully unfiltered, to the life-changing moment when TLC offered them a platform that turned their struggles with obesity, family dynamics, and health crises into primetime entertainment. And over the years, Amy became the softer sister in the public imagination, the one who seemed more grounded, more maternal, more likely to pull herself up and fight for a better future, especially after the births of her two sons, Gage and Glenn, who she often described as her greatest blessings and the reason she kept going through the chaos of filming, marital problems, and Tammy's near-death hospitalizations. Yet all of that carefully nurtured goodwill shattered on that icy January night in Dixon County, Kentucky, when neighbors, curious about the flashing police lights outside Amy's modest home, soon learned through local news reports that the star had been taken into custody after a routine police search allegedly turned up illegal substances and paraphernalia, with officers noting in their report that the drugs were not only present, but packaged in a way that raised suspicions of intent to distribute, a charge Amy's defense team would quickly and firmly deny, with one source close to the Slaton family telling reporters that Amy was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, and insisting she was not a dealer, nor involved in any organized criminal activity. But the cold language of the police records painted a more troubling picture that fans couldn't ignore, especially when it emerged that she had been released the following morning on bail, but would still have to face court within weeks, resulting in a $2,000 fine that, while small compared to the bank accounts of many reality stars, was no trivial sum for Amy, whose earnings come mostly from sporadic TLC paychecks, cameo videos, and the occasional sponsored Instagram post. And while the fine itself legally resolved the case, it also cemented her guilt in the eyes of many, igniting a wildfire of gossip, judgment, and concern across the internet. Still, perhaps the most deafening part of the whole affair was the reaction, or rather the lack of reaction, from TLC itself, a network that has never shied away from milking its stars' personal crises for ratings, but in this case chose total silence, issuing no official statements, offering no words of support or condemnation, and continuing to air reruns of 1000 Delby sisters, without even an acknowledgement that one of its central figures had been arrested. And this eerie quiet only fueled more speculation on Reddit threads, Facebook fan groups, and gossip blogs, with some convinced the network was quietly preparing to sever ties with Amy to protect its brand, others believing it was deliberately holding the story back so it could be worked into the next season for maximum drama, and still others suggesting that TLC was actually protecting her, possibly because the scandal was more complicated than it appeared on paper. Meanwhile, the reaction from fans themselves was swift and often brutal, with longtime supporters expressing feelings of betrayal, disappointment, and outright anger. One Reddit commenter writing, I've supported Amy through everything. Her questionable relationship decisions, her parenting struggles, her fights with Tammy. But this is a whole new low. While another lamented, she has 2 beautiful boys who need her. And she chose this path. How do you come back from that? And perhaps most painfully for Amy, some of the harshest criticism came from fellow mothers who had once looked up to her as a relatable figure navigating the challenges of raising children after divorce, with many questioning whether she had exposed her sons to dangerous environments and whether Child Protective Services might intervene. A possibility bolstered by comments from a Kentucky lawyer quoted in the Courier-Journal who explained that if illegal substances are found in a home where children are present, CPS will absolutely investigate, and that while fines are one thing, losing custody is another, and could become a very real risk depending on what investigators found. For fans who had rooted for Amy through her turbulent split from Michael Halterman, a divorce partially documented on the show in which Amy was portrayed as a mother fighting desperately to prioritize her boys' well-being. This arrest represented a shattering of that image. And adding to the surreal tension was Amy's own near-total disappearance from public view in the aftermath. With no Instagram updates, no TikTok videos, no cameos, and no media interviews. A silence that gossip insiders speculated had been strongly advised by her legal team. But that, in the fast-moving world of reality television, was tantamount to PR suicide. Since every blank space left by a public figure's absence tends to be filled with rumors, assumptions, and increasingly wild theories. One paparazzi shot did manage to surface, a grainy photo reportedly taken outside a Kentucky gas station that showed Amy in an oversized hoodie, looking exhausted and avoiding eye contact with cameras, prompting one blogger to remark that she looks nothing like the bubbly Amy we used to know. It's like this whole thing aged her 10 years overnight. And that sentiment of loss, not just of a public figure's good standing, but of the hope she once embodied, permeated online fan spaces where some accused her of throwing away her redemption arc, while others insisted she deserved empathy given the intense pressures of raising 2 children alone, filming a reality show, managing a divorce, and supporting Tammy through years of medical crises. Tammy herself, of course, could not escape the fallout, with reporters hounding her outside a treatment facility to ask if she had known about Amy's alleged drug use. And while she offered only a terse no comment as she brushed past cameras, insiders claimed Tammy had warned Amy months earlier about the company she was keeping. And whispers began to circulate that Tammy might actually hold information that could change the public's understanding of what had happened. A theory that gained traction when, weeks later, she made a cryptic confession of her own that seemed to reframe earlier events and suggested that the sisters' private lives were even more entangled with risk and instability than viewers realized. By the end of this first chapter in the scandal, the known facts were stark. Amy had been arrested, fined $2,000, and had remained silent. TLC had refused to comment. Fans were deeply divided, and questions about the safety and custody of her children lingered unanswered, and yet beneath all that public noise was a quieter, more devastating truth that the real damage was not the legal penalty or the headlines, but the ripple effect on Gage, now 4, and Glenn, now 2. Boys who had once symbolized hope and a fresh start for their mother, but who now found themselves living in the long shadow of her mistakes, with some fans claiming to have seen CPS agents at Amy's home and others insisting that children were temporarily staying with relatives, all of which remained unconfirmed but impossible to ignore in a fandom as obsessive as this one, where viewers had literally watched Gage's birth on television and followed every baby milestone on social media, rejoiced at Amy's gushing statements that becoming a mother was the happiest I've ever been, and embraced the boys as part of the show's extended family, only to now face the gut punch of wondering whether their safety had been compromised. And as child advocates reminded local reporters, when a parent engages in illegal activity, especially involving drugs, It is not a victimless decision, but one that directly impacts the stability, safety, and future of their children, which made the possibility of CPS intervention, whether real or rumor, all the more urgent in the eyes of concerned viewers. In this swirling chaos of legal trouble, network silence, fan outrage, sisterly tension, and maternal crisis, the central question loomed. Would Amy fight to restore her image and keep her family together? Would the next twist in this unfolding saga, perhaps Tammy's looming confession, push both sisters into an even darker, more irreversible place? The kind of fall from grace that even the most sensational reality
To the airport.
Okay. You make fun of me.
When?
All the time.
should. They don't deserve this kind of environment. A statement that instantly drew dozens of likes, angry emojis, and rebuttals, because even though the group had often been a place where fans debated the sisters' choices with passion, this time the stakes felt higher, more personal, and more volatile. And while some members doubled down, claiming that Amy's arrest was proof enough she was unfit, others pushed back, arguing that Amy's deep love for her children was undeniable, and that one mistake, even a big one, did not automatically make someone an unfit mother, reminding everyone that the details of Child Protective Services investigations are rarely made public unless they go to court. Meaning the truth of what was happening inside the Slaton family remained unknown, but the mere existence of rumors was enough to transform what should have been a private crisis into a full-blown public circus, with every anonymous source and every shaky photo feeding an audience hungry for scandal. In this growing frenzy, the role of Michael Halterman, Amy's ex-husband and the father of her two sons, became another point of contention. Because their divorce had already been a storm of accusations and custody disputes, with each side accusing the other of poor parenting choices. And now Michael's position seemed stronger than ever, his allies pointing out that a drug arrest, no matter the circumstances, was Exhibit A in a custody battle. A sentiment echoed by a family law attorney quoted on a Kentucky talk show who said, "If Michael files for custody, even if Amy avoids jail time, the court may view her as unstable or reckless. That fine may look small, but in a custody case, it's huge." And according to a handful of insiders whispering to gossip blogs, Michael had already contacted his attorneys to request a formal review of the custody agreement, a move which, if true, could put Amy at risk of losing not just shared custody, but potentially all parental rights, something that, for many fans, reframed the scandal from a celebrity misstep into a fight for the future of two small children. Online, the once playful and meme-filled 1000LB Sisters fan community took on a much darker tone as the legal storm deepened. And where fans had once celebrated Amy's weight loss milestones or laughed over her goofy one-liners, they now filled comment threads with anger, disappointment, and vitriol, with one of the most up-voted Reddit posts reading, "I used to think Amy was the better sister. Now I'm not so sure. Tammy has her problems, but at least she's facing them head-on. Amy is ruining her kids' lives," a line that was screen-capped and circulated across multiple platforms, turning into a shorthand for the fandom's sense of betrayal. But in the way of the internet, not everyone joined the mob, and a smaller but determined group of defenders fought to remind others of Amy's humanity. Pointing to her past struggles with poverty, the immense stress of raising two young boys, largely alone, and the unique pressure cooker of being a reality TV personality under constant public scrutiny. With one supporter tweeting, "She's a human being, not a saint. Stop acting like reality stars can't make mistakes." Yet despite this defense, the narrative online was dominated by outrage, amplified by TikTok creators churning out endless commentary videos that dissected every new tidbit of the story, some even staging theatrical reenactments of Amy's arrest with flashing lights, fake mugshots, and sarcastic voiceovers, turning her lowest moment into viral entertainment. Away from the glare of social media, however, sources close to Amy described a woman slipping into depression, avoiding even close family members, letting her phone go unanswered for days and rarely leaving her home except for mandatory court appearances, with one supposed family insider telling a tabloid it's not just the arrest, it's the shame. Amy always wanted to be the silly, fun person everyone loved. But now all she sees are headlines calling her a bad mother, and it's destroying her. And mental health experts weighed in too, like Dr. Miranda Keene, a psychologist specializing in celebrity culture, who told a national outlet, "When you're dealing with someone already under stress, financial, emotional, or otherwise, a scandal like this can push them into isolation. And that isolation makes it even harder for them to recover or make healthier choices." A point echoed by others who warned that public shaming can deepen pre-existing struggles and delay recovery. Into this void stepped Tammy Slaton, at first silently, as despite her own ongoing health battles, she reportedly began spending more time with Gage and Glenn, inviting them over for play dates with her and her husband Caleb, creating moments of stability for the boys while Amy remained hidden from public view. A role reversal that did not go unnoticed by fans who had long seen Tammy as the reckless one and Amy as the dependable sister, with one blogger marveling, "That's the unexpected twist. Tammy, who nearly died because of her own bad choices, is now the one protecting Amy's kids." Though even as she played this protective role, rumors swirled that Tammy was sitting on information that could completely change the public's understanding of what had happened. A rumor that set the stage for what came next. In the background, the future of the TLC show itself hung in the balance, with some insiders claiming producers were debating whether to renew the series given one of its leads had been arrested, while others suggested executives were toying with the idea of a Tammy-only spin-off. And still others believed they might exploit the scandal by making Amy's arrest a central storyline in the hopes of spiking ratings. A strategy entertainment journalist, Alex Romero, warned was risky, saying, "There's a fine line between documenting a scandal and exploiting it. If TLC crosses that line, they could lose viewers who feel they're profiting from a family's suffering." Yet regardless of the network's decision, for many, the real focus remained on the boys, Gage and Glenn, who had become unwilling characters in this saga. Their lives dissected by strangers in Reddit threads, TikTok stitches, and YouTube live streams. With one child psychologist telling People magazine they're too young to understand now, but in 10 years, they'll Google their mother's name and see this. That kind of legacy is hard to escape. A chilling thought that resonated deeply with those who had once cheered Amy as a devoted mother, only to now worry whether she was still the safe place she had promised to be. By the time fans began openly speculating about whether CPS had already stepped in, the narrative had shifted from a simple celebrity scandal to what many saw as a family catastrophe. And into this atmosphere of mounting tension stepped Tammy. Once more, this time not as the silent protector, but as the reluctant truth-teller, lighting the match that would ignite the next explosion in the Slaton saga. After weeks of refusing to answer questions, brushing past reporters, and dodging social media drama, Tammy finally broke her silence, not with an official statement, but with an unannounced late-night live stream on her private Instagram account. A broadcast that began with only a few hundred viewers, most of them expecting another casual update on her weight loss or married life, but quickly snowballed into one of the most discussed moments in the fandom's history. Because instead of cheerful banter, viewers saw Tammy sitting in her dimly lit living room, the flicker of a muted television behind her.